Today, on Speculative Tolkienism, we look at the creation of the 9-man roster, the 9 walkers, that is, the Fellowship of the Ring. We speculate in particular about why Merry and Pippin were recruited into the group, despite being, Merry and Pippin. So fill your bowls with pipeweed and let's get smoking.
Okay, Gandalf makes a lot of sense because, it's kind of his ultimately it's Gandalf's battle, this is Gandalf's function in Middle-earth, period. This is why he was sent to Middle-earth. Okay, so that makes sense. Boromir makes sense because he's probably a level 15 fighter, and they're going that way anyway, right? So he's like, I might as well travel with you,
right?
Aragorn again makes sense because he's Aragorn, and he's again, this is his task.
Yeah.
Okay, and representing the free peoples, you got Gimli, who is quite the warrior dwarf, and you got Legolas, who's an elf, which is always good. But then, again, you got these little dumbasses. It's like, like Frodo and Sam again makes sense. And here's the thing, isn't it weird? Not weird, but it's like it's like, we don't want to touch it. Let's give it to these two idiots right here. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's too dangerous for us. Let's give it to the weakest of,
Right.
I mean, again, and it was explained that, that they were far more resistant because of, like, how they were, like hobbits in general.
The resilient folk, yeah.
Right. But I mean, it's lucky that it was Frodo and Bilbo. I mean, can you imagine if Ted Sandyman was
right.
He'd be like, "Oh, I got this ring. I'm going to claim it. I'm going to take over and get all the birds in Hobbiton."
The gaffer's like, "I'll grow carrots the size of mountains.
I'll grow peas the size of beans." What would have happened if do you suppose, if Merry and Pippin would have been sent back, let's get
to that because that was an option. So Frodo and Sam are kind of recruited into the 9.
Yeah.
And then it's obvious that the 2 hobbits want to go. And actually, Elrond's like, no, you can't go. And Gandalf surprisingly surprises everybody and sticks up for Pippin. We want to go with Frodo. That is because you do not understand and cannot imagine what lies ahead, said Elrond. Neither does Frodo, said Gandalf, unexpectedly supporting Pippin. Nor do any of us see clearly. It is true that if these hobbits understood the danger, they would not dare to go, but they would still wish to go or wish that they dared. I thought that was a great line.
Yeah.
You might as well get Pippin. He's just as good as these other useless hobbits. So,
it's like, look, we gotta carry like extra stuff anyway, so might as well be that.
But it's funny because, like Elrond, here's something that I actually think was not a flaw in the manuscript Tolkien. They're very rare for how huge and elaborate this novel is. Every once in a while, I'll find very rarely though. So.
Right.
One thing I notice is, like, just as these rangers are getting back, these scouts are getting back with reports, they were just saying how there was no trace to be seen of the 9, that they had vanished and their presence wasn't felt anywhere, right? And then Elrond summons the hobbits to him, and he's like, okay, Pippin, I'm not really feeling you joining this ring quest thing. Maybe you should go back to Hobbiton and warn the Shire, or go back to the Shire and warn the Shire about the impending danger. He says, you speak gravely, but I am in doubt. The Shire I forebode is not free now from peril, and these 2 I had thought to send back there as messengers to do what they could according to the fashion of their country to warn the people of their danger. right?
Right.
And just when they just explain that there's no impending danger.
Yeah, there's no impending danger. Doesn't mean that the nine aren't going to like rise back up, though. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
but if they were to rise back up, they wouldn't be heading to the Shire because they knew that Baggins had left the Shire and now was like on the road elsewhere. So I just thought, like, what is the danger necessarily, the imminent danger for the Shire? My point is, it just sounds like he's just trying to get rid of Pippin. He's like, oh, you really got to go back to the Shire and warn everyone of this impending danger, even though that there's no impending danger. It's kind of like when you are talking to your kids and they want to do something brave, or like, oh, you want to go fight those criminals down the street, or you want to go fight ISIS or whatever. But I got a job for you. The neighborhood kids have a lemonade stand. Why don't you go mess with them? Or just some stupid errand to distract your children from some big thing that's way beyond their means or way beyond their abilities, and you give them some stupid job to kind of distract them from that. That's kind of what I kind of feel like is going on here, because they just said how there's no imminent threat.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Okay, I've got a few thoughts on this now that we're actually discussing this. Okay, one, that I think that they could have gone back and they could have warned the Shire folk, like, hey, strange things are afoot out in the real world here. But you know what, though? Honestly, let's face it. The only way that Mordor, like Sauron, is going to the Shire is if everything falls. That would be like, okay, let's take care of this business over here. You know what I'm talking about? It would be after the war. Like if Sauron would have won the war, then they could have.
Oh, you're saying that they're the lowest of his priorities?
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. But I can now like kind of thinking this through like in a different way. I can kind of like maybe speculate as to why Gandalf chose Merry and Pippin or was in support. Because I think that Frodo would need that support system that wasn't Aragorn or Boromir, or it's like there's a certain comfort level that I think you need to keep him from like actually claiming the ring. I mean, if he felt, not to say that he's going to feel threatened, you know what I'm talking about, but I think it's kind of like, hey, let's make.
So you're saying that's why they were allowed onto the company?
Yes, that's why I think like that they were allowed. If you want to, if you really want to think about it, is that like kind of keep him happy, keep him around like the people that he's comfortable.
People that know him, people that relate to him. Yeah, it would be kind of weird to just have him surrounded by a bunch of strangers, more or less.
Gandalf being there would probably be a comfort, but again, like Gandalf's like, if something happens to me, we still need a support network for Frodo, so he doesn't, And
at this stage, I think Aragorn, or Strider as he calls him, gives him comfort too.
Yeah, but it's a different kind of comfort. It's it's not a confidant kind of like.
Yeah, it's more of a protector, more of a parent or something.
So I mean,
it would an equal or a peer or a friend.
It would make sense. Yeah, it would make sense that they would have like the support, because then Frodo can kind of feel like he's kind of maybe in control of something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks to a common theme in Lord of the Rings that where a friend is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than some great noble prince or great huge this fighter who's got all these fighting skills. Sometimes it takes just a friend that you can trust to get you through whatever you're trying to get through. In fact, like, when my kids or whatever, they ask me what Lord of the Rings is about, even when we talk about the difference between fiction and nonfiction, like I always tell them that, my kids will say things like fiction books are not true. And I kind of like have to talk them through a sense where there's actually a lot of truth in fiction books. And in fact, Lord of the Rings is, you can look at it as pure fiction and pure fantasy, but it's about real things. It's about the truth of friendship, for instance, or, duty, friendship. So there's truth in the story, even though it's not quote unquote true. Like it's about friendship. But like to speculate real quick, like switch gears from more serious thoughts. Can you imagine if Pippin and Merry were sent back to the Shire to like warn the Shire folk about their impending danger, and there was nothing going on in the Shire, and people were just like smoking their pipe weed and chasing after butterflies and like doing the laundry on the laundry line, and Pippin's like, "There's this great evil dark lord named Sauron, and he's far, far away, but he's coming to get you." And they're like,
"What do you mean behind the rabbit?"
It's like, hide,
a bunny.
Can you imagine hide everyone? They're like hiding in baskets and they pop their head out like, ooh.
Like, you did. I saw Mom, I was so scared.
Pippin's in the psychologist's office sitting on a chaise lounge, and the psychologist is like, "Is the Sauron in the room with us now?"
I'm telling you, he's coming.
It's real. You gotta believe me.
Like, oh, here comes Pippin, the conspiracy theorist. The poem that Bilbo recites. Can you go to that?
Oh yeah, actually, I was actually gonna talk about that.
Right there.
Yeah.
This poem kind of like, it's actually like an end of life kind of poem, like where Bilbo, I think, finally.
Great minds think alike. I was going to say the exact same thing with this poem. I did want to talk about it for those same reasons.
Okay, well, yeah, let's actually like dwell on this for a little bit. So here's the thing: I don't generally read a whole lot of like the Tolkien poems. I kind of just kind of glance over this, but this is actually kind of a bittersweet kind of
totally
poem, and this really does kind of drive home that okay, so when Bilbo volunteered himself at the Council of Elrond, right?
That was his last chance to get his hands on the ring.
Yeah, no. I mean, no. So yeah, there was, but honestly, I think that was his last chance to be like I'm still young, I'm still hale, I can still do this.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I can still go out.
Right. Yeah, it's quite poignant that that Tolkien then shows him reciting this poem after realizing that the story, the ring, and the great stories of the great deeds have passed on to Frodo, my heir, as it were. And now I'm just this chronicler singing songs and reciting tales and chronicling the great deeds, but I'm no longer the participant in those deeds.
Yeah. No, and again, it's when you're younger, this kind of like, oh, this is kind of a nice little poem. But as we get older, and as our kids get older, I mean, again, not to get too sappy about it, but it's like kind of like, it's like this. I'm not quite there yet, as far as like ready to, whatever. But it's kind of like. It's way closer than it was, when I first started reading Lord of the Rings.
Right,
so it's
right,
kind
right.
of like
when you were just a child, really.
Yeah, when I was a child, and
no,
even
but like
even teens into the 20s and stuff like that. You don't really think about this stuff, but it's like,
I mean, the first two stanzas are reminiscences of things in the past, right? Yeah. And when you are old, and my grandma, before she died, she just told me like, all I have is memories now. And when you're that old, it's like you don't have a whole lot to look forward to, but the main thing that you think about is all the memories that your mind is like kind of going through, ruminating upon, because that's all you have left, especially after my grandpa died. So she just had memories of him, and so she would just kind of ruminate and reflect upon him. So he's saying, I sit beside the fire and think of all that I have seen, of meadow flowers and butterflies and summers that have been, of yellow leaves and gossamer and autumns that there were, with morning mist and silver sun and wind upon my hair. So it's just like, they aren't even really like great deeds or great historical events. They're just a reflection of like the little things. Like I'm thinking of flowers and butterflies in summers long gone. And then that's contrasted with stanza 3, where he says, I sit beside the fire and think of how the world would be when winter comes without a spring that I shall never see. And that's like, when you get old, you start to think like, okay, at some point, like I've seen a lot of seasons, winter has come around again and again and again and again. But one of these days, there's going to be a winter, because winter always kind of looks the same. It's gray and it's steely and there's no leaves and stuff. But one of these days, there's going to be, or one of these years, there's going to be a winter that I'm actually not going to see. I'm not going to be there to see it. And my kids will probably see it, and my grandkids will see it, but I won't be there to actually see it.
Yeah, you'll see the winter, but the spring, like again,
right? There will be when a winter comes without a spring, and the spring won't be there because I won't be there to see it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That's kind of freaky. So it's kind of like if the tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? In other words, like if you're not there to see it, will it actually exist? So that's why the spring doesn't really exist for you, because you're not there to witness it.
But doesn't this poem hit a little bit differently now that we're kind of
totally? Well, that's why I wanted to talk about it, because it's like, I actually have had these kinds of thoughts fairly recently, where I'm like imagining, like, if I die, I don't think I'm anywhere near death, but like if I die, like who's gonna watch the kids, or who's going to who's gonna do these things that I do, because like they'll have to be on their own and make their own decisions, and so real quick, let's just finish. For there sorry, it's okay, there. For there are so many things that I have never seen. In every wood, in every spring, there is a different green. So I see this like you only live one life, and you've only been to the places you've been. There's plenty of places in the world that you've never been. Even I've been like all over the world, but there's still tons of places where I've never been. There's lakes and fat mountains that I've never seen. So he's I think he's equating like the year in the future that you won't see because you die. That's going to just be like the mountain on the other side of the world that you'll never visit because you just haven't been all over the world yet. So there's experiences both there's experiences that you have no access to, either because they're in some faraway geographical location, or because they are from a distant time or place far in the past before you were born, or far in the future after you die. So so it's almost like, it almost gives you a consolation. It consoles you with the fact that, the fact that I'm dying means that, like it doesn't really change anything, because there's always going to be things that you don't get to see. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's very poignant. Oh, and just let me, I guess, finish it off. I sit beside the fire and think of people long ago, and people who will see a world that I shall never know. Yeah, that's interesting. Like your descendants or whatever. But all the while, I sit and think of times that were before, so reflecting on the past, and listen for returning feet and voices at the door. And I could just think of Frodo just saying, "Wow, Bilbo,
thanks,
way to bring it." Way to like really depress me, bro.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, man, is like again, like this was like where Bilbo was like, all right, okay, like I mean, where he truly let go. This is where he just was like, okay, I'm just gonna be hanging in Rivendell for the end.
It's very, very poignant. And then it doesn't even. It's this weird moment, because like it doesn't even finish the scene. It's like that's the end of the scene.
Yeah. like what Tolkien probably did was like, and then Frodo sat deep in thought and said, "Well, gotta go."
No, he's like, and then
anyway,
a tear fell down the cheek of Bilbo as he stared out the window, and Frodo was like, "Are you done with your? Are you done with your poem? Because
what was that part about the green thing? Yeah, that was good. That was good. All right, anyway. Bilbo, I just got stabbed not too long ago. I mean, this is great, but I mean, I'm not feeling that good. Okay, one poem.
Just one.
That's fine. Just one.
And then that was great.
And Bill was like, I got another one. It's like, no.
You like that? Oh, I got another one
Yeah.
that's even better.